Eden Murphy stepped into the pulpit with IV pump slung over her shoulder. She was only 18 years old and was invited to deliver the homily that day as part of a service led by the youth of her church. Her pastor, Peter Marty, sat in the pews and since then wrote a moving essay about the experience. Eden shared that she had been born with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition in which the heart's walls thicken and become stiff, making the heart fail in its pumping duties. She said, "I received my first heart transplant when I was just 2. She knew that heart was a gift from a little boy who died." She continued, "A year and a half ago, I was placed back on the transplant list since this second chance heart of mine has now failed again. The wait is agonizing. Each day feels like a grain of sand slipping away. My future hangs in the balance, totally dependent on a new heart. This journey is the hardest I have ever faced. My heart is ready to give up, but I am not." Eden, the young preacher, declared, "I believe in resurrection, not just physically, but spiritually. I have to keep going. I have to press on in hope," she said. "I want to become a cardiologist who can say what none of my good doctors can say to me. I get it. I know what you're feeling." Parker Palmer speaks of the heart being broken in 2 ways. Broken apart when life shatters us, and then the heart can become brittle, stiff, prone to anger, bitterness, or even violence as manifestations of grief. Or, Palmer says, the heart can be broken open, where one learns to hold the suffering in ways that afford compassion and love for ourselves and for others. It seems to me Eden lives with a heart broken open. Palmer goes on to say, we can learn to live with faith and hope in the tragic gap of loss, because heartbreak can become a source of compassion and grace, where people enlarge their capacity for empathy and their ability to attend to the suffering in others. It seems to me that's a part of what the gospel is inviting us to. And as we sit here this morning and consider what it means to have our hearts broken open, not broken apart, and as we grapple with this gospel passage this morning, we hear about a man who has for 38 years suffered chronic illness. He comes daily to the healing waters to seek help in stepping down those steps into the pool, but others always rush past him. My friends, I will tell you that this man and this gospel passage hold special significance for me, because 10 years ago, in 2015, I stood beside that Bethzatha pool in Jerusalem's Old City, just inside the Sheep's Gate, where I received a call that my mother back in Arkansas was suffering complications, severe complications, in the wake of her heart surgery. I leaned over that fence at the Bethzatha pool, where you can peer down into the ruins of a Byzantine church built on the site, the healing spring, only a trickle now. But I imagined that day, that man lying at the top of those steps all those years. How did he perceive time? Day in, day out, he goes to the pool. Was it time wasted? Was his time landlocked on a mat a sort of torture? How must it have broken his heart each time others pushed past him to get to the pool? And yet there he is the next day and the next and the next. And then Jesus comes along and unlocks a timeless moment for him. Do you want to be made well? He asks. What was it that broke Jesus' heart open that day for him in that momentary interaction? How might our hearts be broken open by compassion and mercy? I will tell you, that day at that poolside, I prayed for that man sick 38 years. I prayed for my mother half the world over. I prayed for everyone with a broken heart, physically, spiritually, emotionally, which is to say, everyone, really, right? Bethzatha, aka Bethesda, means home of mercy. How is mercy meted out in a world of broken hearts? What is our work of mercy here and now in the name of Christ? How are faith and hope designed to span the tragic gap of loss in this life of brokenheartedness? That day 10 years ago, after a time my pilgrimage group moved into an adjacent church of St. Anne, built 1,000 years ago. It is renowned for its exquisite acoustic. And for a millennia, pilgrims, Christian pilgrims, have gone there and chanted and sung their songs in that resonant place. That day, my group sang, "There is a balm in Gilead." Words of faith and hope designed to span the tragic gap. Kathy and I debated whether to leave the pilgrimage early, even checking flights. We decided, though, we would stay the last few days with the group and hold things as lightly as we could. We would wait and divert from the group when we landed in Newark on the stopover, when Newark was an airport you could trust and depend on. But friends, the next day in Jerusalem, we walked the Via Dolorosa, the Good Friday way of the cross, through the bustling market, the back alleys of the old city, to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The timeless journey of the broken-hearted Jesus is what we walked that day. The timeless truth of the Paschal mystery is what we held that day, and what held us. Death and resurrection held in the same frame. You can imagine the poignant experience held against the backdrop of my mother's illness a half world away. We would visit my mother a few days later, and again a few weeks later before she died. But I belabor all of that because what I want you to know is that between those two visits to my mother in her final days, we would worship in community, in this community here, this community which helps me make sense of life, of this broken-hearted life. We mark time by the cadence of our worship here, where we profess our resurrection hope day by day and week by week and year in and year out. It is good to be in community as we find our way. And I love this community that helps lend meaning in my life. What we say and do here matters, friends. It matters. This is not some idle tale of antiquity that we're holding on to. This is a house of prayer for all with broken hearts. It is a safe space to learn how to live with hearts broken open. It is a home of mercy, where we are treated to the timeless moment with Jesus, the compassionate one who sees us, really sees us, and loves us dearly. So take his hand and see what happens.